Energy access during crises is shaped long before shortages ever reach public headlines when shortages emerge. The world does not respond as a unified or coordinated system behind public energy markets. Hidden agreements decide who keeps power and who loses it. Governments prepare for scarcity quietly through contracts never explained to voters. These agreements activate only when supply collapses or geopolitical tensions rise. On paper, energy markets appear global, neutral, and driven by price signals alone. In reality, priority access is negotiated through political trust and leverage. When shortages begin, contractual priority matters more than actual market demand. Some countries retain guaranteed supply while others face rationing and blackouts. This system creates winners and losers long before crises become publicly visible. Strategic energy agreements often include emergency priority supply clauses. These clauses override standard commercial rules. During major supply disruptions, they determine which nations receive oil, gas, or electricity before others. Many of these provisions are classified or buried inside complex legal language. Energy exporters rarely disclose which partners hold priority access rights during stable periods. These agreements attract little political attention during crises. They quietly shape global stability and economic outcomes. Allies are promised uninterrupted supply in exchange for long-term loyalty. Neutral countries rarely receive the same guarantees during emergencies. Political alignment becomes an invisible currency during energy shortages. Europe experienced this dynamic clearly during recent gas supply disruptions. Some states received steady flows while neighboring countries faced rationing. The difference was not demand levels but prior agreements and alliances. Energy infrastructure reinforces these imbalances long before crises occur. Pipelines, terminals, and power grids are designed around trusted partners. This physical layout limits who can receive energy during emergencies. Geography matters less than contractual priority during severe crises. Energy reserves are distributed unevenly across regions. Alliances and strategic blocks, strategic stockpiles are shared selectively through political trust rather than universally. Access depends on treaties, long-standing trust, and perceived political reliability. Exporting nations use energy priority as a powerful diplomatic and strategic instrument. Long-term supply guarantees are exchanged for military, economic, or political support. These deals strengthen alliances while avoiding public scrutiny or democratic debate. Energy becomes leverage rather than a neutral commodity within global markets. Import-dependent countries accept these terms to reduce exposure to future disruptions over time. This dependence reshapes foreign policy choices and strategic alignment. Energy security quietly influences voting behavior and international alliances. This influence remains largely invisible to ordinary citizens and public discourse. Market prices conceal deep structural advantages and systemic disadvantages. True power lies in guaranteed access, not simple affordability. During scarcity, energy companies play a central role in enforcing and operationalizing these priorities. Corporate contracts frequently mirror government-level strategic agreements. Private firms become indirect instruments of geopolitical strategy and influence. Emergency supply rerouting decisions are made quietly behind closed doors. Transparency is sacrificed in the name of stability, predictability, and control. Countries outside priority networks face sudden and severe energy insecurity. Their economies slow sharply while protected states remain comparatively insulated. Social unrest often follows prolonged or uneven energy shortages. Governments rarely explain publicly why some nations are protected. Official narratives focus on logistics, weather, or technical failures. Energy scarcity magnifies existing global, regional, and economic inequalities. Wealth, alliances, and influence provide insulation from systemic disruption. Developing countries are pushed to the end of global energy supply chains. This deepens long-term dependency and fuels political frustration. Energy access increasingly becomes a measure of geopolitical relevance. Future energy transitions will not remove this underlying dynamic. Renewable systems still depend on shared infrastructure and critical materials. Electricity grids also prioritize specific users during shortage conditions. Energy rationing follows political logic rather than principles of fairness. Crisis management reveals how power is actually distributed globally. Rising global energy demand will intensify competition across international markets. Scarcity will trigger more priority clauses than at any point in recent history. Nations quietly renegotiate access long before public crises appear. Energy diplomacy increasingly matters more than market liberalization. Countries without strategic partners face significantly higher systemic risks. Global energy markets appear stable until they suddenly fracture. Crisis responses consistently favor insiders over peripheral actors. Public narratives lag far behind real decision-making processes. Energy security increasingly shapes global hierarchies of power. Power flows steadily toward those with guaranteed access. Citizens experience shortages without understanding the deeper structural causes. Governments emphasize resilience while concealing embedded inequality. Energy transitions will not eliminate geopolitical bargaining dynamics. They simply change which resources and technologies are negotiated. Priority access remains the ultimate long-term strategic advantage. Transparency decreases steadily as geopolitical stakes continue rising. Energy increasingly determines economic survival during global crises. Markets respond only after agreements have already been enforced. Stability depends more on relationships and trust than fairness. Energy scarcity exposes how the world actually operates. These systems are not designed to promote equality or inclusion. They are designed to enforce control, predictability, and leverage. Access is granted through power structures, not guaranteed by markets. Power determines who remains connected during moments of crisis. Scarcity exposes the real hierarchy operating among nations. Energy security is no longer only about supply volume. It is about position within hidden networks of trust and access. These networks operate far beyond public oversight or scrutiny. Most people will never see them functioning directly. Yet everyone remains dependent on their outcomes. The next energy crisis will not begin with visibly empty fields. It will begin with private calls, signals, and closed meetings. Supply will be redirected quietly before shortages are announced. Some countries are protected by deliberate design rather than chance. Others absorb the shock without warning or explanation. Markets describe visible effects, but rarely reveal root causes. Power moves silently through contracts, infrastructure, and alliances. Energy once again becomes the deciding factor in global stability. Scarcity is never experienced equally across nations or regions. The order is established long before the lights finally go out.